So this is going to be part of the maintenance and service we're doing to replace the one-way bearing on the internal wet clutch of the 2008 Rhino 700 EFI. All the 700 EFIs are the same, so this will be the same as far as the clutch goes. So here we have the inner sheave, the outer sheave, and the primary clutch. This is the internal clutch, or your wet clutch cover. This clip is just going to be specifically focusing on disassembling and cleaning this clutch here, this primary clutch. So once you get the clutch off, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing all of these Phillips head screws with the brass washers. There will be a rubber O-ring seal around the back side of this that will make it a little bit difficult to come off, but I'm going to take my screwdriver, get those off of here, and then just gently pry up one at a time around to break the seal for that rubber O-ring. If that stretches, you're going to need a new one, so try not to do that. They are reusable. Okay, now that we've got the cover off, you can see it's a little bit of a greasy mess in there. Here's that rubber O-ring seal I'm talking about. Just carefully remove that. This piece here, this is with the sliders on it. That's just going to lift right out of there. Focus, there we go. And inside, you're going to find your rollers. So, if you ever do any clutch jobs, or put a clutch kit in that requires you to change your weights, these are your weights. They do separate from each other, so there's like an outer sleeve, wear sleeve, and the weights themselves. So, oops. So we're going to be removing all of those. We're going to clean everything up. This is just a very simple video just to show you the internals of your clutch. This is just a spacer inside of here that will pull out of there, like so. And you'll find a seal inside of here too. So this is all going to be disassembled, removed. This is going to be cleaned up and re-greased. So if you want to learn how to get into the internals, being the wet clutch, this video here is part of the wet clutch the wet clutch maintenance and one-way bearing seal replacement video that I'm doing here. So these sliders also come out. They are orientated one way, so be cautious of that. I guess if you want to look at it from this profile, there's going to be a lip on the bottom side down here that faces the inside of your clutch, just like that. If you don't do that, they're going to jam up and you're not going to get full movement on the range of your clutch. So this is, again, just a very simple video to show. I'm going to remove these weights like so. These are stock weights. The only thing different about this Rhino is it has a secondary spring replacement. So it's got a stronger spring. You're going to take a good look at your sheaves, both the primary clutch side and the inner sheave. Make sure there's no really hard ridges or edges or anything like that. That should be smooth. And what I am going to do is I'm going to take a very, very, very light buffing pad, and I'm just going to go over this, because this is aluminum, by the way. I'm just going to go over this just to scratch the surface up so that when I put the new belt on there, I'm not going to get any belt slippage causing, they call it glazing of the clutch sheaves. So that's how you access the inside of your primary clutch. One thing I did need to mention, and just slipped my mind as I was shutting the camera off, the grease that you're going to be using to relubricate your clutch. You don't need a lot of this stuff, but you do need enough to properly lubricate the inside of your clutch. You can see how this is slung up against the edges, and it has not dripped or slung on the outside of the clutch. That is why, part reason, you use the proper lubricant for your clutch. This is bought through Yamaha. This is a OEM part. This is your Ultramatic grease. This is a synthetic grease. So synthetic grease, it for one, it repels moisture. 2, it doesn't sling. And 3, it's going to provide high temperature heat retention. So with a clay-based grease, what you'll find is if the grease gets hot or gets dirty or dusty, in this case it's clutch dust or excuse me, belt dust, what ends up happening is that turns rock solid. So this clutch hasn't been worked on for many years, actually, and it's been worked. Like the Rhino's been worked. That's why we're replacing the one-way clutch bearing. So even though the grease is old and it's dirty, it's still adding lubricity factor. And you don't want to skip out on using the correct type of grease. So again, that's bought through Yamaha. The brand is Yamalube, and it is an Ultramatic grease. It is expensive. But what's more expensive? Replacing your clutch or tube of grease? Always going to be the tube of grease. It's your cheapest insurance. Grease and proper lubricants and proper filters are always going to be your cheapest insurance for anything that you have. Cars, trucks, ATVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles, it doesn't matter. Side-by-sides, they're all the same. They all take the correct type of lubricant. Make sure you replace the lubricants and the filters with the correct type. Alright, so now that we've got everything cleaned up, we're going to start our re-grease. Or greasing. Don't forget to clean out inside of here as well too, where that spacer comes in. This is a sliding spacer too, by the way, so you'll notice that there is a grease port that goes through. There is inside of here a little bit of a hollow that you're going to need to take out the old grease with, or old grease with a rag or your fingers or whatever you can to get in there. Just kind of clean it out good. And then spray it and get it nice and clean for the new grease. So the first thing we're going to do, is because we don't want to waste this grease, it's expensive, is we're just going to pack inside of here again for that sliding bushing with this Ultramatic grease. And it's hard to do this one-handed, so I do apologize for the shaky camera. I don't have a cameraman. Okay, so that's nice and greased in there. And I'm going to put some grease around this collar and then slide that inside of here as well. So the next area that's going to require grease are where these weights and rollers sit. So all of your channels, so 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we're just going to make a nice slather of grease inside of here. Not so much that it's going to sling out. This grease is pretty good for not doing that anyway because of the synthetic factors of it and the reason why it's actually built for these clutches. But we're just going to take a good amount of grease and we're just going to grease everything up so that everything's going to slide nice and smooth. And that roller is going to touch the very end up to here as well. So you want to get your grease all the way up on that side wall here as well. The other area that's going to require grease too is where these sliders make contact. And the sliders make contact, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, and 4 little areas. And you're going to want to take just a little bit of grease as well and cover up those areas up and down the walls. Because as the clutch expands, those sliders are doing their job and they're running up and down against these guides in order to expand and de-expand? Is that the word? I'm trying to think of the word for that. Thesaurus. I'm not really good with thesaurus. I can't even speak English today for some reason anyway. So yeah, so we're just going to make sure that everything's nice and greased so that we have nice free movement when that clutch comes in and out. And I'm going to do that and see you guys in a second. Okay, so we've got all the channels greased. We've got all of the ridges greased for the sliders. Weights are back in. I've just lightly coated the outside of the weights. I've put the O-ring seal back on. As you can see, there's actually no indent for it. Well, there is an indent for it. There's no actual channel cut for it. There's 2 ridges. There's this top ridge here and then this bottom ridge here. So that O-ring is going to rest against the bottom of the bottom ridge. If that makes sense. Here, take a look. See, there's no channel there. There's just those two ridges. So that when that is back into place, there, when that's back into place, it should just rest right in there. So the next thing we're going to do is, since everything's all greased up, we're going to take, I don't know the actual proper word for this piece here. Slider plate, sure. We're going to take that, and we're going to set that back into spot. Just like that. So once that's in place here, we're going to take our top cover, and I've added just a little bit of grease onto here as well, just so it slides over that O-ring a little bit easier. And what we want to do is not disturb that O-ring. So we're going to try to line up our, I'm doing this one-handed, try to line up all of our screw holes as evenly as we can. And then we're going to press down until it goes over that O-ring. And check to make sure that we didn't push the O-ring out or it's not twisted or anything like that. You can see I'm a little bit off here with the holes, but that's okay because I can just get my my pick. Can't do this one-handed. There. And line the holes back up. So that's how you clean and re-grease your clutch. Make sure that when your clutch goes back on to your spline, which this end would be sticking out of your engine, you use your washer and you put your bolt, and I'll put the torque spec for that bolt right up here somewhere. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. I'm pretty busy. I don't really pay attention too much to the comment section anymore because there's lots of trolls. But feel free to shoot me a private message or something like that. Maybe I'll answer it that way. So, all right. Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you next run. Rye Guy out.